We'd like to start with. We'd also reflect on the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misriji's briefing just a short while ago, along with Wing Commander Vyomika, Colonel Sofia Qureshi and Randeep Jaiswal. But first, let's get you these details. It's CNN News 18's mega exclusive input on the impact of Operation Sindoor. Not just terror infrastructure, हमने बहुत जिहादी मारे हैं. The forces, the Indian forces have neutralized a lot of possible threats to Bharat. It's also preemptive in nature, even as it is punitive for what's been inflicted on us in the past. High death toll has been reported at all these terror infrastructures, the 9 locations. CNN News 18 has accessed somewhere the near exact numbers of the death toll. There could be plus minus some numbers eventually, but this is what Manoj Kumar Gupta has been able to source. And sources tell us that death toll is more than 150 jihadis, 150 terrorists. Muzaffarabad, the count is 28. Kotli, the count is 100. We'll try and reflect that on the screen. Kotli is 100, Muzaffarabad is 28, Muridke is 19, Bahawalpur 40 and Lipa 12. So these are the total numbers and the counting is still on. This morning, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh had told the all-party meeting that it is 100 plus terrorists. The counting is still on. Now we tell you the numbers is more than 150, and I'm repeating for the benefit of our viewers again. Muzaffarabad 28, Kotli 100, Muridke, the Lashkar headquarters 19, Bahawalpur, the Jaish headquarters 40, Lipa 12. So if you take the count, it goes up beyond 150. Our understanding is it is somewhere in the range of 170. It could be more. Top intelligence sources are saying the high death toll in Bahawalpur and Muridka is due to the reason. That is the reason why Bharat wanted to target mid to senior leadership to disrupt the entire command structure of the Jaish and Lashkar. Jaish-e-Mohammad's Bahawalpur headquarters had planned attacks like Pulwama 2019 and Pahalgam 2025. The Kotli camp with 100 neutralized was a critical facility for indoctrinating recruits and assembling IEDs. They were training Fidains also there. The destruction delays future terror plots. Lipa is the neutralization there, reduces infiltration capabilities into Jammu and Kashmir ahead of the summer months. That's where peak militant infiltration activity happens. Eliminating large numbers in a single operation undermines the entire myth of safe havens deep in Pakistan territory. The success validates Bharat's integrated air defense network and real-time intelligence fusion. Now, this operation also shows Bharat's shift from defensive counter-terrorism to preemptive dismantling of threats. The only request to our forces, don't stop here. Continue this pest control regularly. If they try to reassemble, please dismantle these structures and these jihadis so that there is never ever a repeat of Pahalgam. It all starts with Pahalgam, and the message has to be no more Pahalgam. Lieutenant General DP Pandey is with us, former GOC 15 Corps of the Indian Army. He is with us in the studio. So good to have you here. Major Manoj Jolly is also with us. So I've just started reading his book and it's fantastic. And if we can do those kind of operations much more regularly, we will have a nation which is rid of jihadis and rid of terrorists. Tilak Devasharji back again. And always a pleasure to have you with us, former member of the National Security Advisory Board. Let's start with this head count. How significant is it, General Pandey?
Yeah, it's very significant because the top rung leadership, which is the one which radicalizes, which is the one recruits, earmarks, selects all across the globe, the volunteers who want to come along has been neutralized. I think that's a very, very huge success. And second is the middle rung, which is the one which will be taking over as a leadership position, has also been neutralized. These numbers are very significant because here and after, the possibility of these Jaish and Lashkar and HM is virtually gone actually, being rudderless, leaderless and actually not knowing what to do is quite significant and seen very clearly in front of us. Second is that records. when the entire structure has been destroyed, there are a large number of records which are existing there.
जी.
So they have also been vanished off, and thereafter, when the lower rung wants to take over and starts doing the work again to re-establish and revitalize this entire system, it will take some time to restart. The third is the morale. Now this part that every time they thought that top leadership can hide somewhere, this reach, especially after hitting the AD systems and all, the message is very clear for the terrorist leadership that there is no place to hide. On the other side, when Abbottabad was hit from the Afghanistan side, when the Americans came and picked up Osama bin Laden, they still thought that India will never cross that line and come across to look for them and hit them. And I'm so glad that finally this attempt was done and has been greatly successful. The tech has been used to actually neutralize these people without actually putting soldiers on the ground. I think this is a very, very big transition, inflection point in our operational strategy, and I'm absolutely proud of the armed forces.
Gee, and if I know him very well, and I know him when he was also serving, there was an emotion saying, "Hum kyun nahi kar rahe hain?" And that why aren't we building the capabilities that that we can do this? And today you're seeing the capabilities and it's being done, General Pandey, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have served in Kashmir itself 7-10 years, and especially while we were hitting the small targets called launch pads, where these two little houses or shanties across where they used to come and the Pakistan army used to make them cross. That never satisfied a soldier on the ground, that when you hit them, sometimes they were there, sometimes they were not. But you knew there's a factory which is coming from behind and pushing these animals across. So today when the factory has been hit, the factory owners have been hit, the only problem is the people who are funding as of now, they continue to be living. I think in case they go beyond the level which they are working today, they are also possibly going to be hit badly, and therefore there is a possibility that terrorism kind of a thing will be hit for some time to come.
झटका तो लगा है, बहुत जोर का झटका लगा है. Major Manoj Jolly, before I come across to you, Tilak Devasar ji, there is, and I'm going to ask you this question also, Major Jolly. There, earlier in the day there was talk that ये बावलपुर में जो ठुके हैं 40, उसमें रॉफ अजहर भी है. And although they are not, there is no confirmation that's come through officially, and with the Foreign Secretary also did not name, but it's come from very high sources within the government that uthuk gaya hai, and the phones are off. So I'm going to ask you, Tilak Devasar ji, is that a possibility? Because he was the key commander, he was running Jaish. MMA was just, when I say MMA, Masood Azhar was just a figurehead now. The operational control was with Rauf Azhar. Sir, mute pe aap.
Circumstantial evidence.
Ji.
The kind of funeral that you saw, the coffins were wrapped around with Pakistani flags. There was a military, soldiers holding the coffin and marching it. It was like it wasn't a gun carriage, but everything else apart from a gun carriage was there, and the people were saluting it. So obviously, it was a very high value person who had been taken out, and Pakistan would never declare the name, but a couple of years down the road, we'll come to know. But certainly, I think. But Anand, let me say this: for Pakistan, irrespective of the leadership position that you enjoy in any of these tanzeems, they are at the end of the day expendable.
Ji.
So while it is a big achievement that 170 of these jihadis trained leadership positions have been taken out, I think we are still scratching the surface.
Okay.
I think we need to take the head of the snakes, both in Muridke and in Jaish, and the bigger mothership, which is the Pakistan Army itself. So long as the Pakistan Army continues to have the mindset of wanting to bleed India through 1,000 cuts, you demolish the Jaish, they will come up with some other organization. Demolish the Lashkar, there will be a different Lashkar. So I think while this has been a huge achievement that India has achieved to take revenge of what happened in Pahalgam, I think we also need to look at the future, look at the longer term. And if this operation is to continue, if we go into Sindoor 2 and Sindoor 3,
Ji.
we must also keep this in mind, that we have to target not merely the foot soldiers and the middle and even senior rung leadership, but the people who instigate
Ji.
recruitment, training, and provide them with weapons.
Yeah, we're going to follow a flow on the show, but I'm just going to reverse that order a bit since you brought out that funeral aspect. Can we call out that image? Because Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary, also pulled out that image.
Yeah.
And he made a few pertinent points. And Major Manik Jolly, Ambassador Ashok Sajanar, good evening. Sir, you've been on the frame. My apologies, I didn't acknowledge you earlier. Thank you for joining us. Just have a look at this image, and if we can call it somewhere, either on the screen or in the studio on our wall here. The picture that he's holding has a person who's leading the prayers. I'm just going to check with the team if they can call up the image. Okay, so let's have a look at that image, and we played it out here on the right stand last evening. Now that's the image on the right, and have a look at that image. This person who's circled, he is Hafiz Abdul Rauf. He's a US proscribed terrorist. He's a Lashkar member. Let's try and go back to that picture, please, and just stay with these visuals and we can hold it. And look at the number of people in uniform behind. Across the military, the park rangers, they're all present there. How is this acceptable? And Vikram Misri asked Manik Jolly that how are you giving jihadis? The attack was at Markaz-e-Taiba, and it is going to be jihadis who are there. Unko state funeral kaun sa desh deta hai?
So, let's call it open secret for the lack of better word. What is happening, what has happened all throughout, that all terrorist factions, all tanzeems, everything has prospered only because blessing of Pakistan Army and ISI. It is just that because of the, past of 80s and even after 2000, because Pakistan was actively involved with the US in Afghanistan, earlier when Russians were there and later when they were hunting Osama, that US refused to, US decided to turn a blind eye to it and never make a comment on it. It is not that they don't know this is happening. And India should actually pick it up very strongly at all forums, that fine, you don't want to say anything, but have a look and comment on this. We should continuously keep asking for their comment on this.
नहीं सर ये हाफिज अब्दुल रौफ का आई एम जस्ट सेइंग एम्बेसडर सज्जनहार जनरल पांडे तिलक देवाशर जी and viewers understand this guy Hafiz Abdul Rauf is the chairman of Al Khidmat. It's a front of the Lashkar. He is specially designated terrorist by the US government. और इसका कच्चा चिट्ठा भी अभी हमारे सामने आया है. I'm just putting it out. He is a member of LET senior leadership since at least 1999. He is the FIF chief operating LET's relief activities under the FIF alias. As of mid-2009, Lashkar was using the name FIF to fundraise and evade international pressure on LET. Following the November 2008 attacks in Mumbai, 26/11 के बाद ये cover fire दे रहा था उनको in terms of raising funds and finances. And under the direct command of LET's overall leader, Mohammad Saeed, Hafiz Saeed, Rauf was LET's Director of Humanitarian Relief in 2008, LET's Director of Public Service in 2003, and in August 2008, at the direction of Hafiz Saeed or Mohammad Saeed, Rauf led an LET Jamaatul Dawa delegation to assess LET JUD relief fundraising in Bajaur in Pakistan. He's also acted as spokesperson for Lashkar, speaking on behalf of the organization to media through LET's website and public forums. He also develops high-profile media programs for the FIF to gain support for the LET. And in December 2008 interview on the Lashkar website, Rauf detailed LET and JUD's welfare activities, referring to it as his organization. And in August 2003, he told Pakistan News Weekly that Lashkar Jamaatul Dawa were collecting funds and carrying out relief operations despite a ban by the government of Pakistan on the organization's activities. और ऐसे लोगों को, you know who they are and what they are. Ambassador Sajanar, is this not the biggest diplomatic tool that we have? To turn around and tell the world this is state backing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anand. You are very right. I think this is a brazen attitude as far as Pakistan is concerned, displaying this in full view of the cameras and the whole world. And, as the Foreign Secretary also said, there are all these people who are, decked up in their military attire, and they are attending the namaz-e-janaza of all these terrorists. And, if they term them as civilians, then which civilians would be, their coffins would be draped in the national colors. And also, there's been another image, FS didn't refer to it, maybe it has not received so much of prominence, but, in Bhavalpur, when there are about 9 ambulances, from this, they are coming out and they are sort of, leaving the premises. There are all these policemen who are standing by the roadside who are saluting these ambulances. And, these are family members of Masood Azhar who are being taken away. And possibly his brother also, in one of those. So they are the ones who are receiving this state honors, so to say, the manner in which this janaza is taking place. So I think it is out there for the whole world to see, and India, I'm sure, would be preparing its dossiers very carefully. Now that, of course, it is a very technical matter, it has to be taken through the hoops we'll have to go through. As far as FATF is concerned, bringing Pakistan again in FATF, there, of course, we'll need the support of some of the other countries like the United States, France and others. Of course, we can be certain that there will be opposition from China and so on and so forth. But I think we definitely do need to go through this on a very, in a very determined way. And also, tomorrow is the IMF meeting for approval of the, the further next tranche of the loan to Pakistan. So there also it needs to be done. So I think
there is another person in that picture who looks like Syed Salahuddin, but it's not him. That's true. He's not there. Hizbul has been totally decimated in this. But he's a US proscribed terrorist, Manik Jolly.
So, a great thing that I think is not being talked about. Who do you give state funerals? On whose coffin do you put national flags? It is, I think, Pakistan Army's recognition to him as a soldier. He might not be directly in the rank structure, but they are telling these guys were soldiers who were fighting our war in the Pakistan.
So they are mujahids.
Yes, so this is Pakistan Army's messaging to all the other terrorist organizations that if tomorrow you die, we will give you the respect that our fellow soldiers get generally. So this is an acknowledgement of Pakistan Army and hence government machinery that the terrorist leaders, everybody get a parallel government running, which is acknowledged, which is given the same respect, resources, permission, freedom, everything that comes along to a fighting force of the, any organization.
So shouldn't we,
Yeah, so, actually a very good point brought out by Manik and Ambassador Jalandhar. The fact remains that, interestingly, Pakistan Army has not given the same respect to their own soldiers. They have never accepted their soldiers. In fact, majority of them, when they get killed, even in operations, even in these times, they are not even acknowledged. Or bodies are in Kargil, if you remember very clearly, they didn't accept the bodies of the officers and the soldiers. So this is the same army which is not respecting their own dead, right, who are wearing the uniform. But on the other side, they are going very, very openly to tell the world, while the messaging may be to the terrorist organization that we are going to look after you and you are duly respected. But I think this is time the world must watch. Because in the Western media today, the coverage of this entire event is very, very sublime. Nobody is talking about it. In fact, this entire messaging, a US designated terrorist comes out right in the open in the uniformed community and leads the prayer for the dead terrorist. Somebody from the America should ask them that, friend, we have been asking for these guys. He is there right in front of you. Why don't you give it to us?
उनको शायद दिख नहीं रहा और चश्मा लग गया होगा तिलक देवाशर जी. So let's show it to them. America has designated this chap as a terrorist and a wanted man. Let's show it to the Americans and the American media. He is standing there leading the prayers, and jihadis are getting state funerals where they don't claim their soldiers. They were not even allowing their living from the Atari border into Wagah. They didn't even want their living back. But here they are standing up and mourning the jihadis with the state flag, the national flag on their coffins. Tilak Devashar.
Yeah, what it also shows is the total brazenness with which Pakistan does this kind of a thing and could be bothered about the consequences. These are all, they've just come out of the FATF grey list. The IMF funding is due on the 9th, the next tranche. They just couldn't be bothered. Because they know that in certain circles in the West, and especially in the Western media, they have support. And irrespective of what they do, uniformed soldiers standing behind this designated terrorist with a price on his head and who's leading them in prayer, and it's a water off duck's back. And why blame them? When you had the defense minister admitting on television that they had been doing it for the last 30 years, Bilawal Bhutto also saying that yes, we have a past, the world does not acknowledge or does not want to acknowledge. And therefore, I think the message to us is that we will have to take care of these guys ourselves, and we should not be looking for the international community to help us support, to support us. We have to take care of it.
Correct. But the thing is, sir, the state of Bharat as an entity itself has to take the loudspeaker and blare it loud and clear into the ears of the world till the time they go deaf that this is a jihadi state, this is a terror state.
Yes, absolutely. So this is what, even in the Foreign Secretary's press conference today, he did make this point that it is the hub, it is the center of terrorism, but we have to keep repeating that message. And we have to do it on social media, we have to do it on print, we have to do it on electronic media, through shows like yours, till the message gets home to every nook and corner of the world. That this is what this state is, and this is what India has to deal with.
Well, there is more. Now, on this aspect itself, let's get to the other part. And we thank the Foreign Secretary for highlighting it, because 2 days in a row, this is the first time the state itself has officially highlighted this and brought it front and center. Vikram Misri said that Pahalgam attack was the original escalation in the recent tension. So let's not forget that. It starts with the Pahalgam massacre. Operation Sindoor is a retaliation for the Pahalgam massacre. A lot of people are now looking at only Operation Sindoor and taking things forward from there. Very, very similarly as Godhra was broad brushed. So in this case, this is Pahalgam massacre. Now, tensions between India and Pakistan have escalated. Then the Indian armed forces only responded to the escalation on the 7th of May. The TRF claimed Pahalgam. Then they claimed it again and then they denied it. Twice there came clarification and claiming of the attacks by TRF. They denied it when the Pakistan government started turning around and saying TRF ka koi haath nahi hai. Then the Pakistan minister celebrated this aspect as an achievement that Pakistan was able to remove the name of the resistant front, TRF, again a front of the LET, from the UNSC statement. Let's listen into what the Foreign Secretary first said.
सोचिए किस देश ने टीआरएफ का, द रेजिस्टेंस फ्रंट का उसमें मेंशन किया जाना, उसको अपोज किया, पाकिस्तान ने. दिस वाज आफ्टर द फैक्ट दैट द टीआरएफ claimed responsibility for this attack not once but twice within a few hours after the incident on the 22nd of April and then again on the morning of 23rd April. And it is perhaps only after the full gravity of the incident was realized by its masters and handlers across the border that it was managed to back off from this claim.
Who are the TRF? This is a nefarious TRF and this is a playbook. This is a project for Kashmir's militancy to try and show the terrorism unleashed in Jammu and Kashmir as indigenous. They were a Lashkar front. This is when the FATF guidelines, grey listing had happened, and the Pakistani establishment wanted to de-link the known proscribed organizations from what was happening in Jammu and Kashmir. That's where entities like this Kashmir Tigers and TRF started evolving. So this is to avoid international scrutiny. Terms like resistance were chosen deliberately to mask ties directly with the ISI via the Lashkar. The TRF came into picture post Article 370 abrogation, the FATF grey listing, all of this happening. TRF adopting non-religious symbol to distance itself from some of the known terrorist groups. The TRF leadership includes Lashkar operatives such as Sheikh Sajjad Gul. The TRF leadership includes Lashkar operatives such as Basit Ahmad Dar. Also, the group operates with logistical and financial support from Pakistan's ISI. The group enjoys logistical support from Lashkar handlers like Hafiz Saeed, their Talha Saeed. The cadre also includes both local recruits who are trained in Pakistan and Pakistani terrorists who are then pushed into Bharat after training. They use body cameras to film attacks, amplifying the fear itself. And they facilitate weapons and narcotics smuggling via drones. The 2021 drone attack on Jammu's IAF base was linked to this very entity. Now let's go back to our guests and understand. You've dealt with this menace, so please tell us, shouldn't we work towards getting them proscribed and linked directly with the LET? And the other thing is, when that Pakistan foreign minister comes and tom-toms and pats himself on the back कि TRF का नाम हटवा दिया, उससे बड़ा proof क्या है कि ये सब जिहादी एक साथ मिले हुए हैं पाकिस्तान स्टेट के साथ?
Okay, I'll just go back to Pulwama, which happened.
जी.
Jaish-e-Mohammed had taken the lead and accepted it, and it came out very clearly. But the moment the impact and the outcry came out after this incident, thereafter they backed off, right? Eventually, everybody who was neutralized or taken out was very amply linked, and was all communication, all training system, every document which came out linked Jaish-e-Mohammed to this Pulwama strike.
Ji.
The second part which is important to note is that even the Pahalgam incident and couple of operations which have happened, terrorist strikes which have happened in last about 2 years, have got a very, very close linkage to SSG, which was involved. Even in this operation, it is said that possibly an SSG element was involved. They are specially trained.
Abu Hashim Musa.
Yeah.
Former para commando or SSG,
correct.
Special Services Group.
Right. So there are enough ample linkages. Besides that, when Musharraf comes out onto a live television interview and makes a statement कि हम ये सब कर रहे हैं, what else is required in to tell the world that Pakistan is a terrorist state? Who is going to designate? In case China and America, who have been using them as a tool, as a proxy for their own interest, who else is now going to put the mat on Pakistanis onto the mat for designation of being a terrorist state? I think the time now has come to compile everything and take it up to the UN this thing and go the whole hog
no?
this time.
Turn up the gas on.
Right now there is no way that Pakistan can escape this facet. I think we must at least make a full-fledged attempt, howsoever is possible, to designate them as terrorists. It just can't keep on happening that you will be, if you are compliant and you will change name from Lashkar-e-Taiba to TRF. These are all gimmicks, and please understand, this name of TRF, when you add resistance, gives a signature of some degree of credibility in terms of Islamic manner, and also to the Western sensitivities that this is a resistance movement which is being taken over by indigenous movement. Truly today the local element of terrorist is zilch. Hardly any.
33 bhi nahi hai, 30 bhi nahi hai actually.
Yeah. And they are
and
all
the recruitment this year is not even it's in single
Yeah.
digits.
So,
if
you know,
it is right.
absolutely, you're right.
Ji.
But the element which remains is in terms of leadership, in hardcore action comes from Pakistani terrorists. It's a PT. Some time back it used to be FT, which used to be controlled by the Pakistani establishment, but today it is very, very clear because the foreign element has stopped coming. Right? They all accepted the Taliban after taking over. We'll send some fighters on this side. The Taliban's turned that entire thing over the head. The strategic depth got totally lost because they got their own interest to take care. So therefore today any element which is operating in terms of foreign element are the Pakistani element. And I have seen very, very closely that in my all tenures, these shifts have taken place, but in last about 4 to 5 years, they have ensured to put a facade of a local element, but essentially the control and the levers going in the hand of the Pakistani element. Right? There cannot be a better time to take Pakistan to the international level to be designated as a terrorist state actually.
As a terrorist state. Manik ji, coming to you in a bit, but Ambassador Sajanar and Tilak Devashar ji put their hands up, so then I'll go out and then I'll come back to you. Hope I've got my, and our team has got the basic intelligence about TRF right, and we've got some of the facts in place. There are other aspects to it too. But Ambassador Ashok Sajanar, is it possible in diplomatic parlance to start addressing Pakistan as terror state Pakistan? Can Bharat do this?
I think we really need to do that.
What do we do to up the ante so that this is achieved, proscription of TRF?
Yeah, I think we need to recognize that at many international fora, many regional fora, as far as India is concerned, it has been raising the issue of terrorism, and it also has been focusing on cross-border terrorism. And what does cross-border terrorism really mean? It means terrorism that is emanating from. So we have been talking about that on very many international fora. We need to up the ante now.
Right.
Now, what FS also mentioned is that we have been raising this whole issue of the TRF in the 1267 committee reports that we have been making.
Correct.
He said that today in his press conference also. And if you look at, the other documentation, we have been bringing up this issue of TRF for the last 2-3 years. So what we really, and he did say that, we are going to raise it again in the next, our report that goes to the 1267. And now I think we'll be going with the much greater fusillade and arsenal at our disposal, because we have all this evidence as far as Pahalgam is concerned. First, they're accepting responsibility twice, and then recanting on it. So I think that is number one. Number two is, as we were talking earlier, I think what Pakistan has been able to do is that it has been able, in the international consciousness, it has been able to normalize its, terrorist credentials. People say, yes, Pakistan, okay. Meaning otherwise, if Osama bin Laden is found there, in 2011, if in 2021, when Taliban goes and takes over in Afghanistan, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan says that gulami ki zanjeerein humne ab tod di hain, the shackles of slavery have been removed today,
right.
Which means that Taliban that was being supported by Pakistan against NATO, against ISAF forces. So I think Pakistan has been given literally a free pass as far as its terrorist credentials are concerned, and we really need to go after that. That is why I said that we will need the support of countries like the United States and some of the other
US के तो
big
sir,
players.
It is convenient based on how whether उनके utility में आता है कि नहीं आता है.
I agree with you,
because they become the Rottweiler to whoever throws the bone. That is how they are as a country. If their elected leader, Prime Minister, if I remember, former one, calls him a martyr, then what else do we expect? And nobody says anything.
Absolutely.
And
Last
nobody
word on
says
that,
or does.
Anand.
जी.
Anand, last word on that.
जी.
2018 जब हमने इसको पाकिस्तान को FATF में ले गए, Donald Trump was the president there.
जी.
When they came out, it was in 22, when it was Joe Biden. I think whatever we might say, but the support of the United States, both in the IMF as well as in the FATF, is critical, and we need to work towards that, whatever we say, because China is never going to be with you.
No, correct. So this time when we get if we get the support of the international, if we get international bank, Tilak Devashar ji, yes, इस बार छोड़ना नहीं चाहिए sir, grey list नहीं, black list.
You see, Anand, where our case becomes weak when you go to the international community and talk about Pakistan as being terror central. One question they ask is that how come you haven't declared Pakistan a terrorist state yourself? You see, we talk about Pakistan, terror this, terror that, produce dossiers, produce evidence. What is stopping us from declaring Pakistan a terrorist state?
Exactly, like I said, we should hyphenate and say terror state Pakistan. It should be the official position of Bharat.
Yeah, and legally whatever steps need to be taken, like we declare, organizations in India as proscribed, why can't we declare Pakistan a terrorist state? Now, I don't know the legal implications of what is the process. I'm not an expert in that, but I'm sure people in the Home Ministry will know how to go about and do it. Unless India takes that first step how are you going to convince the international community about the terrorist credentials of Pakistan?
एक टाइम सर दिया था MFN, मोस्ट फेवर्ड नेशन. अब लेट्स डेजिग्नेट इट एज TFN, टेरर फेवरिंग नेशन. So
so we need to step up to the plate.
Yeah, there has to be something.
Step up to the plate.
Manik ji,
and I think Pahalgam gives us an opportunity.
Ji.
Because there is so much of palpable anger in the country, especially the manner in which it was done, that we need to take these harsh measures.
Yes, Manik.
I'll say one thing, Anand, that we are in middle of a ideological war, which has now become a communication war. We haven't been very great in managing the communication, given it whatever Pakistan and American relations have been past 50 years. There is a symbiotic setup there. They don't want to detach from it, and that gives them this leverage.
Yeah.
What we need to do is push up our game. What you said, let's start calling, Pakistan #terror army. Even in your official document, Atanki Sena. Let's stop calling them army. Post this picture, photograph of their officers standing with the terrorist.
Jihadi
and
army.
Start with jihadi army, terror army. We are just being good boys. We are fighting a very nasty enemy. The way we have been conducting ourselves, we have been hoping that if we are going to be nice, these guys will respond automatically in the same manner. That is not happening. We are land of Chanakya, and we are behaving like, you go into the jungle and I'll not eat lion, it will not eat me. That is exactly what we've been doing. Military action is the last phase of, military is just a shackle around this whole thing which is somehow containing it. Otherwise, when General Pandey sir was youngster, he fought terrorists. 25 years back, I commissioned, I fought them. The youngsters who will come now, they are fighting it. So what we need is a diplomatic solution. We need an information communication solution. We need to fight that war, and then the military steps in. Otherwise, there is no guarantee these actions will stop.
Yeah, military remains.
Yeah.
Military does what it will do, and it should be given a free hand कि जितना ठोकना ठोको. But the fact is that right now we are seeing a whole of government approach with water, tap on, tap off, band बजाना शुरू किया. ये 20 साल पहले कर देना चाहिए था, if not before that. But let's try and let's not do half measures anymore. General Pandey, and then we'll get to the next angle.
I just want to say this, that maybe about 20 years back or 10 years back, we were not in such a position in terms of economic heft and the position in terms of the entire dime parameters which are required to be putting our viewpoint at the high table. Today, we are in a position to do that, right? There is one major shift, that there is a larger world body which is willing to listen to us. We should not shy away by putting this point across and using this. The second part is that at this inflection point, or this point of a very, very important this thing, Pakistan has lost out its relevance to the American, to the deep state of US, except for some degree of supply of weapons. It is also losing very rapidly the relevance to the Chinese, right? While the moral support may be there, but the Chinese also know that this is a failing state in terms of pushing the businesses to this element is going to be, dried up. The Americans taken a call to engage with Taliban. The requirement of putting some degree of distance between the Soviet Union, erstwhile, and now Russians has gone. Those challenges have gone, right? What is the need for them to continue to invest in Pakistan? And I think that is how we do.
The diplomatic challenge, sir, is very simple. Show the nations who have a vested interest in managing this region that Balochistan is an option.
Yeah. Go ahead with it.
Yeah. Create Balochistan. The rest of it will be, and leave the rest to us.
We say we recognize.
Leave the rest to us. So, terror state Pakistan, jihadi army, and the next level is to try and openly say that Baloch have the right to assert their own independence. Give the Baloch plebiscite.
Totally.
Give the Baloch the right to decide, because it's an occupied territory from 1948 onwards. So I think up the ante, and then tell the nations, look at the possibility. Because 48% of today's current day Pakistan is Balochistan. So that itself becomes a strong tool. And somehow, let's hope that the intelligent minds who are today out there with a purpose have this there as far as the mid-term and long-term strategy. Let's just go across to the operational aspect of it and some big wins that have happened in the last 48 hours. जितनी फजीयत जनरल आसिम मुनीर की हुई है, कोई भी और जनरल होता तो अभी छोड़ के चला जाता. In 48 hours, such reversals have happened. 9 ठिकाने आपके ठुक गए. 21 times they have been pounded. Then उसके बाद you try a military maneuver and the Bharatiya Sena turns around and says, see, this is how you do it. आपका एक भी नहीं लगा और हमने 3 ठोक दिए आपके, 3 नहीं 4. Rawalpindi, Sialkot, Karachi and of course Walton in Lahore. Now Bharat has pierced Pakistan's air defense radars. Our armed forces targeted air defense radars and systems at a number of locations in Pakistan in Jawabi Karwai. It's just in equal measure. What they tried failed. We said we'll do it and we did it better. Lahore, Rawalpindi, Sialkot and of course Karachi. Pakistan attempted to engage number of military targets in northern and western India, including Awantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Amritsar, Kapurthala, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Adampur, Bhatinda, Chandigarh, Nal, Phalodi, Uttarlai and Bhuj. 15 places. 15 जगह ट्राई किया, एक जगह भी सक्सेस नहीं. इससे बड़ा फेलियर कुछ हो सकता है फॉर अ पाक आर्मी जनरल. He should be out. Faziyat, full shame on Asim Munir. That's what's happened from a military point of view. Now, these were neutralized by integrated counter UAS grid and air defense system. The debris of these attacks is now being recovered from a number of locations to prove the Pakistani attacks. The Indian Air Force neutralized incoming Pakistani missiles with Russian-made S-400 system that came into place and also launched Harpy drones and Akash missiles. Now, what they are, let's tell you a little more about it. Now, this is how the entire plan was foiled. Top intel sources have said that Pak aimed to disable Bharat's air defense surveillance to launch strikes deep into Bharatiya territory across the IB. Contrary to what many thought that he will not go beyond the LC, they tried to cross the IB. India neutralized Pak drones using integrated air defense systems, and Bharat also launched precision strikes on HQ-9 missile launcher. In Lahore, the damage to the HQ-9 launcher weakens Pakistan's ability to detect strikes. Tonight, Lahore is not just dark, it's blind. It's got no clue because they have nothing in the air to locate them. The HQ-9 missile launcher critical for defending Lahore's airspace. HQ-9 is a Chinese-supplied long-range surface-to-air system. Initial intel of Bharat says that damaging a Pak F-16 conducting reconnaissance near border. So there is also that. कि उनका एक और F-16 टूट गया, which they are not supposed to use. They wanted to do it for reconnaissance. Now let's show you Bharat's successful operation versus Pakistan's failed attempt. I just want to quickly walk across to the wall to show it to our viewers. Here on the wall, the S-400. Now let's try and look at where all they tried to attack. Sorry, beg your pardon. Srinagar, Awantipura, Adampur, Jammu, Pathankot, Amritsar, Adampur, Jalandhar, Kapurthala, Chandigarh, Ludhiana, Bhatinda, Nal, Bikaner, Phalodi, Uttarlai and of course further down there is Bhuj. These were the places where the Pakistanis tried to attack. हमने कहाँ उनको अटैक किया? रिसालपुर, पेशावर, कामरा, रावलपिंडी, मियावाली, सरगोदा, रफीकी शरकोट, Samungali, Quetta, Shahbaz, Jacobabad, Bholari, and then further down in Karachi, there is Shara FSL and also Masroor. So these are the places where we counter-attack to say this is how we do it. And Pindi mein unko chot lagi hai. There is also something that's happened in Sargoda, and then there is Lahore, and further down in Karachi. So these are 4 places where Pakistanis themselves have conferred कि उनको चोट लगी है. Your thoughts, Major Jolly? कि ये HQ-9 तो फुस हो गया पूरा.
Yeah, the photographs were pretty conclusive that came.
हाँ.
I mean, it is exactly as you said. They tried. We told them, hold on. We will show you how it's done.
जी.
That was the great answer given back.
जी.
And the Lahore setup, not only we sent Harop drones and caused a lot of damage to the whole surveillance system. It is typically called a SEED operation, you know, surveillance or suppression of enemy air defense. And everybody knows, even with the basic understanding of military ops, what follows after SEED is a solid air raid. Now we do it or we don't do it. But they are in a lot of fear that will it happen or not. So in a way, I think I really like this kind of a strategy. You take the first move, you do something and keep the enemy guessing. Now we go for an air raid or not, that's of course governments and air forces.
No, but tonight the people in Lahore, apparently there is this news doing the rounds and some very senior journalists, defense experts are putting out some flight radar which shows that there is a chartered flight that's taking off from Quetta and going up to Lahore. And then one is coming to Islamabad. So one is wondering who are these people who are trying to make their exit and what's
You
happening.
don't have to guess hard for that.
Yeah, so that's what. Bob Blackman is with us. Jai Hind, Namaste. Thank you for your support, and your words in the parliament today are going viral, Mr. Blackman. Thank you so much.
Well, a pleasure to join you, and Jai Hind.
Your thoughts on what's happening between Bharat and Pakistan, and this is especially after what happened in Pahalgam, Mr. Blackman.
Yes, I mean, obviously after the dreadful terrorist atrocities committed in Pahalgam, India responded, I think, proportionately at the time with diplomatic measures, closing the border, expelling those with Pakistan heritage who are there on visas in India, and encouraging Indians to come home from Pakistan. Very sensible measures indeed, and plus, of course, the suspending the Indus River Water Treaty. The central demand from India, and I think from the world, was to say, look, terrorism cannot be allowed to continue, and therefore Pakistan must either remove the terrorist bases along the line of control, or India will rule you. And clearly, the initial strikes that took place, missile strikes, hit 9 targets along the line of control, where terrorist bases were operating to train terrorists, irrespective of whether they were the terrorist bases from which the terrorists that committed the atrocities on the 22nd of April stemmed from. That was proportionate. And then what we've heard, obviously, is further attacks from Pakistan and then responses from India. I hope that now things can settle down and people can say, look, okay, enough is enough. But the reality is this: until the Pakistani government and military ensure that terrorist bases are no longer operating, there's going to be the potential for further escalation. Equally, if Pakistan reacts again from the attacks that have taken place, then it will ramp up still further, and there'll be further bloodshed and further loss of life, which we'll all regret. I mean, I think that should be clear. But now the onus, I have to say, is on the Pakistanis to do what they should have done in the first place.
Mr. Blackman, have you ever seen state funeral being accorded to terrorists, and that funeral or that prayer has been led by a proscribed terrorist? Have you seen the pictures, Mr. Blackman?
I've seen the pictures on Indian TV, and obviously
he's Hafiz Abdul Rauf, a Lashkar operative who operates and leads their social front, and he's proscribed.
Yeah.
He's proscribed by the United States. And look at the number of army personnel, military personnel, and politicians who are standing there as he's leading the prayers. Now, if you're willing to believe the evidence put out by Bharat that only terror infrastructure was attacked and that was destroyed, and the casualties or the deaths people neutralize are all terrorists, then a state funeral, the Pakistan national flag is placed over their coffins. The funeral prayers are being read by a proscribed terrorist, a terrorist proscribed not by India but by the US itself. How would you read this?
Well, it's very simple. Pakistan can't say that they're not connected to the terrorism that they've inflicted on India. And it means that they are completely complicit with what has gone on. I mean, we've in the United Kingdom, we've experienced this with the IRA during the troubles in Northern Ireland, where the IRA, a proscribed organisation, terrorist organisation, did similar things, but never did we see military or politicians, elected politicians, being at their funerals. The sad reality is this: that Pakistan doesn't seem to understand that, frankly, the damage they're doing to themselves in world relations. It just ties together and actually cements the evidence that India has presented to the world that these are terrorists, that they're supported by the Pakistani military and the Pakistani politicians who are not taking the required action to stop the terrorism. What we want to see is the terrorism halted. Now, if they continue in this vein, then we can only see further death and destruction happening as a result.
But Mr. Blackman, there's a question that one of our panelists, Mr. Monique Jolly, has. How would you respond, or how would the international community respond if Bharat officially starts hyphenating Pakistan with terror state and starts calling it a terror state Pakistan? Because otherwise it seems to be able to blindside anybody and everybody about its jihadi activities?
Well, we know that Pakistan has long harboured terrorists. In fact, of course, Osama bin Laden had his operational camp there, and the Americans had to go in and to exterminate him in Pakistan. So this has long been the case that they've harboured terrorists. We in the West, I think, regard Pakistan as a failed state. No one seems quite sure of who's in charge, whether it's the military or the politicians. Certainly the politicians don't seem to be in charge unless the military allow them to. And it's quite clear that the military are behind the supporting these terrorist operations. They're there for a specific reason, and that's to cause damage to the security position in Jammu Kashmir and to other parts of India. And the fact that they've tried to attack parts of India during overnight suggests that this is only their attempt to escalate the situation. And there's still time. There's still time, I think, for them to fall back and actually do the right thing. However, it's quite clear that if they don't and they continue with their support of terrorism, then the West must back India in combating this terrorism.
I have General Pandey with me and also Tilak Devashar along with Manik Jolly. General Pandey, anything you would like to add here?
Yeah, for Bob Blackman, I've been in Valley for about 7 tenures, operational tenures, and I headed the Srinagar headquarters and looked after entire Kashmir Valley per se. There is enough evidence time and again of this name changing from Jaish-e-Mohammed or Lashkar-e-Taiba to some other new names, basically to meet the sensibilities of the West. But how much proof actually is required for the world community to start changing their behaviors towards Pakistan, which has been the fountainhead. Actually, when you look at the entire world community today, the fountainhead in terms of training, funding, money, population, everything has come out. All the trails will always lead back to somehow or other lead to Pakistan.
Pakistan or the
territory.
ISI, the Pak military.
Yeah, I will say Pakistan.
Can I suggest?
Yeah. So
Can I suggest that India
yeah.
needs to present this evidence to the United Nations Security Council and to substantiate it. So there's no prospect of denial then of what has happened, what's been allowed to happen, and the whole of the West can unite behind India in its pursuit of eliminating this terrorism. We have a problem in terms of dealing with Pakistan. As you quite rightly say, these terrorist groups keep changing their names. The so-called group that committed the atrocities on the 22nd of April are called the Resistance Front, which has come from the other terrorist groups that operate there. So they keep changing the name, but they're still the same people, and they're still the same modus operandi. And so we've got to give the support to the brave troops of India who are defending the area of Jammu Kashmir against these terrorist atrocities. Their aim is to disrupt, create fear, and prevent the valley being used for tourism and for the various different other aspects of culture that is available. It's a very beautiful place. I visited the valley 9 years ago, probably when you were in charge of security, I have to say, and I think I'm the last serving British Member of Parliament to do so. And that demonstrates the problem here, that the terrorists have been able to continue to operate and therefore force our Foreign Office to advise people not to travel to the valley. And that's what they want to achieve, to stop the tourism taking place. We must not allow them to succeed.
So for last about 75 to 80 years, Pakistan was carved out for a reason of a geostrategic importance. It drove its essence of being as a Pakistan state, which is quite an unnatural state.
Exactly.
And it's an artificial state of a different kind. I'll not deliberate upon it. It had a relevance to the Western powers for some time, right? And in last about
So
5 to 6.
Question is that relevance over? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. It's limited time. Bob Blackman, Tilak Devashar, quickly your points. Bob Blackman, is that relevance over now?
I think we've got to the point now, while there's incontrovertible evidence to say the Pakistani military and the terrorists are interlinked. together with politicians in Pakistan. It's one big failed state. So we've got to call it out and do something about it. We can't allow this to continue because it becomes a threat not only to India, but to other parts of the world.
Right. Tilakji, thank you for your patience. Yes.
One other thing which I want to put on the table. For the Pahalgam massacre, you had Operation Sindoor. There are more than 20 people who have been killed in Pakistan's unprovoked firing on civilian population. I think we should also let Pakistan know that Sindoor 2 is also going to follow to take retribution and to give revenge against these 20 people who were killed. Let's not forget them. Let's not forget those people who have been killed in unprovoked firing by Pakistan.
You make a very fair point, and thank you for remembering that. We thought we would mention Sindoor 2 after it happens, not preempt it.
But I think it's important that all of us remember those people who were unfortunately killed in the unprovoked firing of today and yesterday.
Jay, let's hope the powers that be and those who are watching this broadcast remember that, and those our armed forces deliver a fitting reply to those who have lost their loved ones in Poonch. Gentlemen, thank you so much. An engaging conversation as always. Wonderful to have you. Bob Blackman, thank you for your time. Tilak Devashar, Manik Jolly, and also General Pandey. Thank you very much. Winding up on that one.
Brought to you by
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर पर 7 मई 2025 को हुई प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के दौरान भारत ने अपनी प्रतिक्रिया को केंद्रित, संतुलित और गैर उत्तेजक बताया था। यह विशेष रूप से स्पष्ट किया गया था कि पाकिस्तानी सैन्य ठिकानों को निशाना नहीं बनाया गया। साथ ही दोहराया गया कि भारत में किसी भी सैन्य लक्ष्य पर हमले का उचित जवाब दिया जाएगा। 7 से 8 मई 2025 की रात को पाकिस्तान ने उत्तरी और पश्चिमी भारत में स्थित कई सैन्य ठिकानों को, जैसे कि अवंतीपुरा, श्रीनगर, जम्मू, पठानकोट, अमृतसर, कपूरथला, जालंधर, लुधियाना, आदमपुर, भटिंडा, चंडीगढ़, नाल, फलौदी, उत्तरलाई और भुज पर ड्रोन और मिसाइलों से हमला करने का प्रयास किया। इन हमलों को इंटीग्रेटेड काउंटर यूएस ग्रिड और वायु रक्षा प्रणालियों द्वारा निष्क्रिय कर दिया गया। इन हमलों का मलबा कई स्थानों से बरामद हुआ, जो कि पाकिस्तानी हमलों का प्रमाण है। On the night of 7th May 2025, Pakistan attempted to engage a number of military targets in northern and western India using drones and missiles. These places included Awantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Amritsar, Kapurthala, Nal, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Adampur, Bhatinda, Chandigarh, Phalodi, Uttarlai and Bhuj. These were neutralized by the integrated counter unmanned aerial system and other air defense systems. The debris of these attacks is now being recovered from a number of locations that prove the Pakistani attacks. आज सुबह भारतीय सशस्त्र बलों ने पाकिस्तान के कई स्थानों पर वायु रक्षा रडार और प्रणालियों को निशाना बनाया। भारत की प्रतिक्रिया समान क्षेत्र में समान तीव्रता के साथ की गई। यह विश्वसनीय रूप से ज्ञात हुआ कि लाहौर में स्थित एक वायु रक्षा प्रणाली को निष्क्रिय कर दिया गया। Today morning, Indian Armed Forces targeted air defense radars and systems at a number of locations in Pakistan. Indian response has been in the same domain with the same intensity as Pakistan. It has been reliably learnt that an air defense system at Lahore has been neutralized. पाकिस्तान ने नियंत्रण रेखा पर आकरण गोलीबारी की तीव्रता बढ़ा दी है, जिसमें कुपवाड़ा, बारामूला, उरी, पुंछ, मेंढर और राजौरी क्षेत्रों में मोर्टार और भारी तोपखाने का इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है।
Pakistan has increased the intensity of its unprovoked firing across the line of control using mortar and heavy.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. Operation Sindoor is not a one-off. It is continuing, and it has been confirmed by none less than the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Last night, there were multiple drone swarms from Pakistan targeting at least 15 different Indian cities. But every one of them was thwarted. It was intercepted by the S-400 air defence system that India has managed to procure